Thank you for joining me today for our second webinar of the 2019-2020 school year. My name is Natalie Roberts, and I'm the online training lead for STEM teacher support. My role is to help and support you throughout the time that you are a member of STEM. I encourage you to reach out to me at any time with questions or feedback. As I mentioned during our last webinar, each month we will focus on an aspect of the ICTI curriculum, one of the learning cycles, and a helpful tool or resource. For today's webinar, I would like to take our time together to discuss the curriculum topic, Transcending Educational Boundaries, Learning Cycle 1, Identifying the Challenge, and the STEMcast Podcast resource. As you begin to complete your ICTI training modules, you'll be introduced to how the STEM program and curriculum will help you help your students to transcend educational boundaries. You will likely discover that you may be employing many of these techniques already in your classroom. However, even as an experienced STEM educator, it's helpful to be refreshed as to what your role is in the process, and you may learn something new. If you are new to STEM education, then hopefully the strategies we discussed today will help you implement STEM in your classroom with confidence. To advance your students' STEM capacities to transcend traditional education boundaries, you must accomplish the following: set a clear purpose, adopt a holistic philosophy, establish processes to meet students' needs, set high and clear expectations, integrate STEM pedagogy, incorporate performative assessments, and provide sufficient hands-on learning activities. Let's take a look at each of these in more detail. Setting a clear, coherent, and consistent purpose for the STEM activity is critical for students to have the roadmap and confidence to move forward. This seems like a simple enough proposition. However, it is important to remember that the purpose, goal, or objective of the activity may be clear to you, but it also needs to be easily understood by your students. This may require you to take some time at the beginning to break down an overly technical standard into easy to understand language for your students. It is also helpful to post the purpose for your students to see throughout the activity. Remember that meaningfulness is an important factor in the learning process. Setting a clear purpose is critical to communicate that meaningfulness. Adopting a holistic teaching philosophy means two things. One, that you're developing a student's intellectual, emotional, social, physical, artistic, creative, and spiritual potentials. And two, that you're engaging students in the teaching and learning process by encouraging collective responsibility. Teaching in a holistic environment means letting go of traditional authority and moving toward a student-centered ownership of the learning. It's also about building relationships, student to student and teacher to student. One simple strategy that you can use is to prompt learners to stop and think or show and explain, and ask questions for self-monitoring and reflection throughout an activity. This may be difficult at first for you and your students. However, it's important to practice holistic techniques like this every day. A holistic philosophy is not a holistic but philosophy. It must be employed consistently and completely to achieve success. Implementing a student-centered, holistic philosophy does not mean that you do not have processes. Structure is important and your students want it. The difference is that you'll want to establish processes, practices, and protocols that are in alignment with the characteristics of your students and their learning needs. For example, if you're a science teacher, you may have an activity that requires students to use chemicals or sharp instruments. Of course, you will need a safety process and set of protocols for your students to follow. When designing your processes, involve the students in designing them rather than simply dictating a list of rules. Your students have experiences to share. They may think of things you never thought of based on their own life experiences, and it's important to consider those experiences. You'll want to be sure to set high standards and clear performance expectations for your students. The STEM curriculum structure does this by providing you with a rubric that outlines clear expectations. This performance structure gives you the opportunity and confidence to encourage your students to always reach higher. You'll want to take time to review the rubric yourself to make sure that you understand the expectations. Then, provide your students with examples of projects scored at each level. One way to help build collective ownership is to have your students collaborate, discuss, and explain what would need to be improved on a project to score higher on the rubric. Next, integrate the STEM pedagogy with your effective teaching approaches. STEM's curriculum follows a problem-based and project-based learning, or PBL model, that emphasizes collaboration. Within the PBL model, STEM's curriculum helps teachers work through the plan, teach, assess cycle. The problems addressed in the curriculum are relevant, real-world, and project-based. Again, part of transcending educational boundaries is being prepared to incorporate performative assessments to expand your evaluation of student performance. The final step of the PBL model is to assess. Any assessment in a holistic learning model should be project or problem-based, and the STEM program ensures that you have the tools to prepare your students for the final ultimate performative assessment, the STEM challenge. As mentioned earlier, your role is to provide enough opportunities for your students to be involved in educationally relevant, thoughtful, and purposeful hands-on learning activities. This does not mean just the challenge project. You want to ensure that you're building in hands-on learning on a regular basis. To help you with planning, the STEM program is broken down into 7 learning cycles. This section will help you and your students stay on track with successfully completing your projects for the performative evaluation. With the STEM pedagogy, there are 7 recommended cycles you should follow. Each cycle is discussed in detail in Session 6 of your ICTI training modules. These recommended cycles can be flexibly used for either the 30 to 36 week or 9-week implementation option. During each month's webinar, we'll progress through these cycles as well to help you plan. Now I'd like to spend some time discussing Learning Cycle 1, Identifying the Challenge. For the first learning cycle, your objective is to identify the challenge theme for this year and to begin to engage your students. The theme for this year is Live Smarter 2.0, the Age of Automation and Artificial Intelligence. During this learning cycle, you will review the literature, inspire your students, and kick off the challenge. There's a wealth of relevant literature related to the age of automation and artificial intelligence. To get started, utilize the material available to you in the ICTI training modules. We've done some of the heavy lifting for you by providing you with resources and strategies related to the theme and challenge topics. For example, in Session 1, you'll read AI, Automation, and the Future of Work as the first assigned reading in your ICTI training. In this article, you'll learn about AI and automation and how they are changing the world of work. Use the information in this article to springboard a discussion with your students. Take the knowledge that you've gained from your research and now begin to engage and inspire your students. After providing them with the specific curriculum problem, encourage your students to brainstorm ideas for their challenge projects. Determine the structure of your brainstorm session and provide your students with some prompts. Board rotation, think, pair, share, and silent brainstorming are all methods to consider. Remember, whatever brainstorming method you choose, it should be holistic and have a clear purpose. The Challenge Kickoff event is an important part of the STEM program. It is the perfect opportunity to engage the community and promote the STEM program at your school. It introduces the STEM Challenge to everyone who will be part of the program. This includes teachers, mentors, students, parents, sponsors, and volunteers. The kickoff displays a thorough knowledge of the goal and provides steps on how to reach it, so the community will gain confidence in the team's ability to deliver the work. If you are your school's lead, you'll want to allow yourself enough time to plan your kickoff. Remember, this is an opportunity to generate excitement and engagement at your school and in the community. If you need help, remember to reach out to STEM Teacher Support for assistance. Throughout this webinar, we've learned a bit more about how the STEM program will work in your classroom. To conclude today, I would like to remind you that STEM offers a number of tools and resources for you to use throughout the time you are preparing for the challenge. One of these resources is the STEMcast Podcast. The link shown here, stemcast-podcast.libsyn.com, will direct you to the main STEMcast page. On this page, you can browse and listen to the latest podcasts or search the archives for previous episodes. You have the option to listen to the podcasts online, or you can download them and listen directly on your computer. You can also subscribe to receive future podcast episodes. On the slide, I've suggested a few podcasts to get you started with learning more about STEM pedagogy and the specific theme for this year. Each of these are searchable by title, or you can locate them by date in the archives. I encourage you to listen to these and others as you work through the ICTI curriculum and as you implement STEM strategies in the classroom. And of course, share these with your students as you see fit. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here to help you throughout the time you are with STEM. Don't hesitate to contact me at development@cstem.org with questions or comments. Thank you for joining today, and we're so excited to have you as part of the STEM family. Mark your calendar for next month's webinar taking place on Thursday, October 17th at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Until then, remember to reach out if you have any questions or need assistance.